Hey guys, welcome back to Real Love Scenario.
Bow, bow.
Shout out to
Happy
all our real
Tuesday.
lovers out there. Miranda and I are back. It's been a while.
Yeah,
Took
it's
some
been a couple
time, needed
weeks.
some time.
Mhm.
Call it our summer vacation. How about that? Um,
Except there shall be more.
yeah, there shall be more for sure.
It's
But
the beginning of summer vacation.
exactly. But we are
Mhm.
back and happy to be back. Lots going on today, but we're here, Rhonda.
Thank you for your patience if you've been waiting. And if not, welcome. Happy that you're back for another week. Happy Tuesday, as we say in Baltimore. Happy Tuesday.
Two Tuesday.
Tuesday. Tues-
Tuesday.
Yes.
Love it. Love it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So we're happy that everybody is back and join us a real love scenario. If you are new to the show, join the Real Lover Gang. Just like, subscribe, comment, do all the things that are free to you. It mean a lot to us.
hmm
And welcoming, all of our shows, our new content. Check out, for the girls, Work the Wait. We launched Dear to Sia. Like, check
Yeah.
out everything along with Real Love Scenario. So join the Real Lover Gang doesn't just mean you get us; it means you get all the relationship restored
Yes. Yes.
shows and
Yes.
podcasts and content. So we
Absolutely.
definitely want you to be part of the game.
Yes, I was watching Dear to See It cracking up. So definitely check out all the new content. It's so good. Relationship Restored is just it's so good. It's a one-stop shop for all things relationships. So I love it.
100%. So we are just going to hop straight into our real love scenario. Are you ready, Rhonda?
I am. I am. This one's got me a little excited today. So let's jump right into it. She says, Hey, Dre and Rhonda, I've been holding this in for a while, but after listening to your show and watching Nelly and Ashanti find their way back to each other, I feel like maybe it's okay to say it out loud. I'm thinking about giving my college sweetheart another chance. We were young when we were together, and even though the love was real, the breakup wasn't great. It ended in silence more than in closure, and we truly went our separate ways. No checking in, no situationships, just distance and time. 10 years of it. In that time, he got engaged and had a child. They never married, and from everything I know, their story ended a while ago. But out of nowhere, he wrote me a letter, a real handwritten letter. He apologized. He took accountability for the way things ended. And he said, after all this time, he still thinks about me, not in a fantasy way, but as someone he now knows how to love better. I won't lie, I was caught off guard, but reading it, I felt something shift. Not because I missed the past, but because I wonder if maybe we didn't get our full story. Maybe the timing was wrong then, but it's right now. Of course, there's a lot to unpack, especially with him having a child. I don't take that lightly, but I'm older, wiser, and softer in many ways I wasn't back then. And so is he. It's not about reliving what we had, it's about asking if there's something new we could build now. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is it crazy to go back, or could it be a second chance that actually makes sense? Thank you so much for
Yeah,
writing
thank you
in.
for writing in. Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
This is a good one. This is a good one.
Mhm.
Spinning the block. Where you want to start, Rhonda, with this scenario?
I mean, let's just dive right on into it. Like, I think this can be a very controversial topic because there's so many people that have this hard like I will never go back. They are an ex for a reason. They kind of have that feeling. But then there are others who also look at like an Ashanti and a Nelly and they're like, oh, you never know. Like maybe it was just bad timing. So I guess I want to ask you first. What do you think? Do you think more often than not, is this a good thing to consider or you should leave it alone?
I don't think I'm not leaning one way either, either or, right? I think
hmm
that there's a lot of different factors to consider. One, she said college sweetheart, right? I'm
Yeah.
starting more and more as I listen to more people talk about their relationship experiences and dating experiences, um, acknowledging that it's very the experience when you're 21, 22, 23 is different when you're 31, 32, different when you're 44, 45, right? Because
Yeah.
I always used to think some of the advice and guidance that I would give should apply universally to everybody. And some of it does, right?
Yeah.
But I started catching myself to as I started to listen to more people's stories and experiences that actually I can say this worked for me at 22 and 23, but somebody who's 35 is having a completely different experience, right?
Yeah.
And it's a completely different place in their life. They're in a completely different place in their career. They're completely in a completely different space when it comes to maybe the family that they have, if they already have kids, or what options are available, or the people that they are looking to court or looking to date are different than those when I was 22 and 23 and 24. So when it comes to spinning the block in this situation, I would first say with a college sweetheart, you say 10 years later, that person at 21, 20 years old is different than that person at 30 or 31, right?
Yeah.
Through their experiences and things that have gone on in their life. So I think you have to approach it almost as if it's a different person, right? And you have to kind of reset that relationship. What it does is it helps the initial ice breaking period, right? Of like, hey, how's it going? What's your name? Like, where are you from? Like, you guys know each other to that extent. But
Mhm.
I think there's a rediscovery that has to happen to truly know who that person is. That's 10 years of experience that they have in life that they live that they've gone through without you present. And
Mhm.
that could transform who they are, what they believe, how they operate. So you have to rediscover who that person is and take the situation for what it is. This is not the same person you dated. This is somebody you know that you dated in the past. And now you need to understand who they are currently to understand if it makes sense to continue to move forward in that relationship.
Yeah, for sure. I think you really nailed it when you said like it's a long time, like this is not the same person even when I think about myself going from 21 to 31. Yes, obviously I was still Rhonda, but that's like a significant difference. Like I was extremely different and then going from 31 to 41 also extreme differences, especially in the love department. Like that's probably one of the most significant places I grew and changed. And things that I thought I wanted at 30, definitely not the same things that I think I want at 40, not totally. And so I think approaching it in the mindset of like, yes, this person is familiar to me, but so much of who they are is up for rediscovery or just discovery in general. I think one of the most notable things is obviously he had like propose to someone, like that is usually comes with a certain level of maturity around life partnership. And then he also became a father, a whole nother persona to take on. And so definitely like this is a new person. And I am not opposed to spinning the block. It just depends on the situation. It depends on what happened in the past. Like what was the reason for the breakup, what really led to that. Because what you and I were just talking about is kind of like, I think if you had a relatively amicable breakup, or even if it wasn't amicable, it just wasn't a full blown burn the bridge down. Like it just was like a normal breakup. We went through some stuff. We maybe didn't like each other or it wasn't working out. And that was that. Just rebuilding off of that is a challenge within itself. Imagine compounding if you broke up because of like a bunch of infidelity, or you broke up over just abuse, or like, and not even necessarily physical abuse. What if it was financial abuse, or like the person was just really, really bad with money, or really made a lot of bad decisions? Trying to retrain or recondition your mind to see them as better than what you remember them as is also a heavy lift. So I think it just really depends on what went down, in addition to how much time has gone in between what was to what is today.
Yeah, and you mentioned a good point because over time, typically when it comes to anything, the
Mhm.
details start to fade, right? So it's like all those things that, may have contributed to the breakup, all the little quirks and nuances that made you guys not necessarily work out in the moment and time that you didn't work out.
Yeah.
you over the years could start to forget like what those things were or how they made you feel, right? So that's why it's important to re-engage from the sense of not I already know this person, but I
Mhm.
need to rediscover who this person is at this point in their life because there are changes. And I
Yeah.
think one big thing that we have to point out in this this scenario, which I think happens a lot in this situation, is this like fantasy that you create of how this is just full circle, how this is God
Mhm.
ordained, and look at us
Yeah.
coming back together. Like you create this fantasy and this image of what this thing is in your mind, and you start to hang on to something that has not even happened, but to
Yeah.
your idea of what you hope will happen. And you have this idea, and you're trying to make your reality fit the idea that you have versus letting your reality actually shape into the thing that you want it to be. And it's like
For
that is
sure.
the thing that makes a lot of this so difficult because it's a really great story to tell, right? And
Mhm.
it seems like something that just feels right. I know them, they know me. But what is happening in this situation, and I would tell her, is like the person wrote expressing themselves saying that maybe they could have treated you better or you were
Mhm.
somebody that they always used to love. That
Yeah.
is the extent of what it is. If you want to engage back with them, don't assume that they are the person that they were. You start from there and say like, oh, this was nice. And I would even say if the person wants to get to know you, they'll follow up and say like, would you mind going to dinner, right?
Yeah.
I would love to take you to dinner. I would love to take you to breakfast. I would love to, meet up sometime and re-engage and just catch up, right?
Mhm.
Like, but if they just write that, don't then take a letter and create the book. You taking a
Yes.
page and writing the whole book off of the
Mhm.
page, right?
Yes, yes.
Don't
Like
do that.
nostalgia is like the author. Like you're letting that all of that past be like, oh, yep. Like you almost give them a pass to, or you could give them a pass to skip steps. When really this is a new experience and you really should be starting so much of it as a new experience. Again, the person is familiar to you. You ever have those moments where you meet or you see someone and you're like, I feel like I know you. You know what I mean? Like you may have met them at a different time. You may have been at a party and saw them at some point, or maybe you all work for the same company, but you never really worked together. That familiar feeling, while it is closer than those two examples I gave, I would caution that you should approach it kind of like that. Like, yes, I'm very familiar with you and we did have this history, but again, 10 years becoming a parent, you have grown as a woman, as you said, you're wiser, smarter, softer, all these different things. This is like, hello, it's nice to meet you again. It's literally like a starting over and giving each other so much room to just discover. And I think that's the beautiful thing. That's probably one of the best things about dating, even though it can become, yeah, like exhausting just from repetition. That is one of the most beautiful things about it, is like this discovery phase of like, oh, what can I figure out about this person? How can I get into their head in a good way? Like, what do they like? What don't they like? What books are they into? What are their hobbies? Do they even like books? Like, what makes them tick? What makes them smile? How do they need to be supported? All of that stuff is necessary in this dynamic, even though this is your ex from college. You're really kind of starting things completely anew. And I think one of the biggest things that you really want to look out for, which I think the handwritten letter, I'm not even going to lie, was such a nice touch. Now, I hope that he is really sincerely coming from a real genuine place, but I think handwritten things in general are such a lost art these days. Like we do so much over digital platforms and everybody's just so used to just sending a quick thing. But I deeply appreciate the few people in my life, certainly the older people in my life, who will mail me a handwritten card or a note. It's just something about that. So, like, a man writing, like that's what we did back in the day. Are you kidding me? That's what we did. You sat in your room like, hey baby, what you doing? Me, not much. Sitting over here thinking about you. Like that is how we talk to each other, because we didn't have cell phones, or I did, but not until high school. So that's how we did. We wrote letters and we handed them off in school. And so I think it just shows such it's just such a romantic way to me to communicate. And I love that she said he took accountability for it. And I think those are all really good signs that he is coming back in the right spirit and with the right approach. And I think that's what you want to look for when you think about growth. I mean, when you think about spinning the block, you want to really see growth. You want to see, like, oh, damn, you didn't just get older, you actually matured. Like, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for signs that someone is a bit more in touch with themselves, that they aren't just aging, but they're getting their season, they're getting better with time. That's something that you definitely want to look for, and consistently, because we all know that we can tend to put our best foot forward right up front. But as
Yeah.
this continues to grow and develop, you want to make sure you continue to see those signs and not fatigue from the performance of having those signs.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you made a good point. It's important to emphasize that, like, with all those things, the taking accountability, truly expressing himself in a handwritten way might show a level of maturity that he didn't have in college.
Hmm.
But one thing I also want you and people to understand is that just because they're a good person doesn't mean they're your person, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm saying this from personal experience. One, for instance, I am surrounded by a group of amazing women and men that are married, men that love their partner up and down, all about their wife, all about their family, and wives who are the same way with their husband. All good men, all good women. If we wanted to do a wife and husband swap, it would not work, right? And they're everybody's good people, right? But
Yeah.
we uniquely are, matched and geared towards being able to stand and take on the nuances of our individual partner. Like, it probably wouldn't work if we tried to mix and match, even though we have a group of really good people. So I
Yeah.
say that to say is that through my experience, I've been here before. I've been the college guy who had a girlfriend who was amazing. I wasn't ready at the moment. Our relationship really didn't work out for various reasons, but the way I broke it off probably wasn't the best way. And later on, realized that the way I broke it off was a horrible way of doing that and was insensitive to her.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to get back with her mainly because of the guilt I felt in
Yeah.
how I broke it off, right? And not necessarily truly evaluating the relationship
Hmm.
as, let's take aside what I did. Are we even each other's person, right?
Yeah.
So y- be careful when somebody says that they have left a situation, when
Yeah.
they have just ended something, right? Because there's a lot going on in their mind that they're, thinking about, mulling
Hmm.
over, trying to figure out. It's a lot of emotions, and they may come to you realizing that I treated somebody wrong in the past, and I would love to find a way to, make good on what
Yeah.
I did. But just because they became wiser, they became more mature, and they became a better person than what they were 10 years ago. Also, surprise, they're not 21, they're 31. They should be more mature, wiser, and a better person.
Right.
Still doesn't mean they're your person.
They're your person. That's it. That's it. And I think that's just such good advice no matter what scenario we're talking about. Like when people think about walking away from a relationship, I think sometimes you really do get caught up in, like, you want the person to be like the villain, like it would make things easier. I've even been in this situation. I've talked about the relationship that I was in the longest in my adult life, and how, like, he is a very good person. That mindset kept me in that relationship longer than I should have been, because I was like, oh, he's just such a good person, he's such a good person, but he was not my person. He is a good person, and that's great. He should be a good person, but who he's designed to actually be with romantically was not me, and vice versa. So I think that's just great advice no matter what we're talking about. People can be amazing, but just not for you. And that's okay. You know what I mean? The faster you kind of get to that and arrive to that station, the better everyone is. Like, you're better for it, they're better for it. There are relationships where I'm grateful. I mean, in the moment, I might not have been, but overall, I'm grateful that they released me, that they did whatever they did to for it to end, because I don't know that I would have came to the conclusion on my own because I was so caught up in like, I'm just gonna go along to get along. And it's like, yeah, no, that's not how that's supposed to work. This isn't like a sentencing. This is something that should be elective and a choice, and it should feel very, very aligned. Um, I want to jump into when she talks about Nelly and Ashanti, right? Because I think they
Yes.
have become the poster children for spinning the block. And I have had the I don't know, I say the pleasure, but I've certainly watched both of them, mainly Ashanti, speak at length about how they rekindled and how that whole process went down, and the fact that they really truly deeply disliked each other for a long time in between the former relationship and now their marriage. And I think their story is amazing, and I think like watching them, it does feel like you said that like now the book is, it was still being written, but it's a more of a book now than just a page. And it's like beautiful, right? Like, oh my gosh, this is so sweet. They were babies when they got together, and now they got a baby. Like, it's all of the things, and I think it is nothing wrong with admiring someone else's relationship. I think it's cool to look at other people and find things that you would like for yourself in their relationship. But I think that there is a fine line where it becomes like you're idolizing it without actually fully understanding the full story. Do you find that people do that? Like, we think about the Russells and the Sierras and, Will and Jada at a point, and just like maybe even like you and Brie, like people look at your relationship and they're like, yes, like it's almost like a worshiping of what you have versus just an admiration for it. Do you find that people kind of find themselves in that slippery slope of taking their admiration too far?
100%. I think that that's probably, if you had to make a list of some of the things and problems that are plaguing relationships today, that's probably at the top of the list, or one of the top five, I guess. It's
Mhm,
just this idea of this is the construct or the example of what a relationship should be. So I'm um fixating and gearing everything that I'm doing from a relationship perspective to achieve that. And the thing is that like all those things that you see are external, right?
mhm,
They're not
mhm.
internal. You're not getting eyes truly into the relationship and what happens. So now when you're going out and looking, you're focusing on all things external, right? And the funny thing that happens, I know specifically for me, as I'm looking on social media, I'm hearing especially single people talk about what they're looking for in relationships and what a man should do this and how a woman should do that. I'm looking in my own marriage and being with my wife for almost a decade now, right? And being
Mhm.
like, we don't even talk about this. Like these things that you're worried about with finding a partner are things we're not even discussing. Like, or things that these aren't the things that help me sleep great at night, right? It's
Mm,
like you're focusing on a great story, that's not going to hold your marriage together. That's
yeah.
not going to, you know, when you go on vacations and you're doing all these things and you actually got to, sit your head down and be next to that person. That's not what's going to help make you love that person. Even
Yeah.
when people are fantasizing like, "Ooh, I want a man who make X, Y, and Z and do this for me. I want a woman who cooks and cleans and does." It's like, you want a man with money? Okay, you got the vacation, you got the bag. Once you take off them expensive earrings, them expensive shoes, and you lay down in your bed, that's the person that you got to be with. Like, what's most important is the person that you're with and their
Mhm.
character and who they are, right? And if you're focused on all the external stuff, you'll miss what's the most important part, which is the internal, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's like
Yep.
you have to focus on those things. So if you're constantly fantasizing or looking at these people, even if it's my wife and I, as transparent as we try to be, and trying to map your life to be exactly like that, all you're doing is mapping your life after external things, right?
Mhm.
And you're trying to look like something you see, which is ultimately not a real thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I just think it's it's a snapshot. I think for the most part, I would think it that at a certain age and in just a certain awareness, you have to know that every relationship has its set of challenges, even if they're light and mild and they're not like super heavy hitting and have you considering walking away. But every relationship has its things. Everything has its quirks or its downsides or things that you might prefer were different or prefer were better or wish that they didn't say or wish that they didn't do. I've never been in a relationship where that was not the case on both sides. Certainly I've been in relationships where it's been manageable and just fine, and then others obviously it didn't work out and we're not together anymore. I think not considering the totality of the relationship is where people get into a lot of trouble because, like you said, they're really just seeing the prettiest version of the picture for the most part. I think like the couples that I mean, there are lots of couples that I admire, whether they're celebrity couples or not, but the ones that I find just deep revere and regard for are ones that I can actually see the whole picture. So those are usually real relationships. So like people that I actually know, because that would be the only way that I would kind of know all of those things. And it's also people who may be public figures or celebrities, but they understand the responsibility that they have to being these figures that they didn't necessarily choose to be. And so they go out of their way to ensure that you get the full picture. Like you said, you're being transparent. Like, yes, we do this, we make money together, we have a beautiful house, we have kids, everything's great. But you know what? 2 years ago we was doing this, or yesterday we're struggling with that, or when we have disagreements, this is what the sticking point and this is how we get through it, or we had to go to counseling for this, or we had to bring our pastor in to manage that. I respect deeply relationships that just paint the whole picture. I think, again, all relationships have a whole picture, but people who only fixate on showing you the pretty parts, I like, it's just I take the pretty parts, and I leave them. And in fact, I leave them all together. Like, as much as I just think Sierra and Russell are the most adorable things ever. I just so much of that relationship I think is just sweet as pie. I do wish with them knowing how much people are like clamoring after what they have, that they, if they are going to speak so much about the love that they have for each other, because they do, they talk about it a lot, it has become a part of their actual brands, that there would just be sometimes a little more time spent on just, it's no way after this much time together and these many children and outside of the challenge of him coming into a relationship with a woman who had a new child, it's like, yeah, but like, what's how y'all manage when y'all have spats? You know what I'm saying? Or like, I know you have a lot of money, and so traveling is easy, but is it emotionally easy? Right? This man has played for what? He's played in 3 or 4 different cities in like 5 years.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm sure in some way Sierra can feel like a single mom, even with a whole set of help, even with a whole group of people. You're not going to uproot where your children go to school and all of that because dad's on a new team this year. And he may not literally be on that team next year. We're not moving to Pittsburgh. We're not moving to New York. We're going to live where we live, but dad is gone a lot. So I think there's, again, nothing wrong with admiration, but I think we just have to be really careful not to idolize really anyone, but especially people where you only have that snapshot. You are not seeing the full picture, because then you're going to start thinking, well, look at how he talks about her. He loves her. She loves him. All they do is just love on each other. And it's like, but they don't. You know what I mean? Like they don't. Trust me. They had a
And
little thing a couple weeks ago.
that's what you're talking about is truly what is most important to the success of relationships, especially long-term relationships.
Hmm.
And that is setting the right expectation going into the relationship.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like a lot of people fail. I mean, expectations are I mean, disappointment is directly linked to expectations, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you don't have high expectations, then the chances of you getting disappointed are a lot lower, right? But if you have very high expectations of what something may be, then the chances of you getting disappointed are very high. And when
Mhm.
people see these situations and they see all the good, what they expect out of relationships, right, are all the rosy, great,
Yeah.
beautiful things that relationships can offer, which are all present
Yeah.
and possible in relationships. But if you're not expecting the downturns and the bad times and the times where you're not liking each other, or the times where the money, the power, the clout, all these different things don't make up for the lack of attention or quality time or emotional availability, then you would think you have a bad person, or you'll be ready to jump ship because this person isn't adding up to the fantasy that you created based off of things you see externally. That's
Yeah.
why I always applaud like how Michelle Obama has been so candid in her, speaking about her relationship with Barack Obama. And I
Yeah.
knew this, like I read his book Audacity of Hope, like before he, Michelle
Mhm.
came out with her book and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And when he was talking about it, I was like, oh, I'm in a relationship. I know how you talking about it. Michelle was pissed at you. And this
Yeah.
is not even President Obama. This is
This just Senator
state
Obama.
senator, not even
Yeah.
United States senator, like state
Yeah.
representative Senator Obama, as
Yeah.
far as like having kids, putting your career on pause, like all these different things.
Mhm.
And it's just so amazing for them to be examples to talk about that, because you are married to the most powerful man in the world. You got people waiting hand and foot. You're on Air Force One. You could fly, do whatever. The fame, the money, all of it comes. But you talk about how you ain't like your husband for a certain amount of time. Like
Yeah.
that's real, because being in a relationship, I can say I've been there. I've
Mhm.
loved my wife and still done my duties, but wasn't always liking her in seasons of our lives. And we
Yeah.
had to figure out how to navigate that. And when you share those things, you're helping people set the right expectation, right?
Yeah.
Because even as a kid, right, I remember going through puberty and things like that. And I don't know if women have go through this too, but when new things are happening to you, you sometimes feel weird because you don't know if you're the only person
Oh,
going
yes.
through it, right? But there's
Yes.
a sense of comfort when you realize, oh, everybody else goes through this too, right?
Mhm.
Then
Mhm.
there's a sense of like relief. I'm not crazy. I can stick through this. So many people in my life years before me and generations and generations and generations have dealt with this as well. So this is just how things go, and I will be okay as long as I keep the right mindset as I'm pushing through. And I think that works in relationships as well. It's like if you set that right expectation and you understand what all that it takes and how to push through, then you'll understand like, okay, I'm not crazy. It takes time. Maybe I need some outside help, because some people need that at times, right? It's okay for me to take a break at this time. Like you start to understand that there are ways to deal with this, and you have the proper expectation on what it takes to get there.
Yeah.
And lastly, with that is just I've talked about it on this show before, is that everything that you do in life, any advice that you take, any direction that you're going in, your mindset should always be what gives me the best odds to achieve what I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Like you stop looking at people and taking that Cinderella story and applying it to you,
Yeah.
right? Like
Mhm.
that's hoping that a one out of a million thing will happen to you, to where I don't know about you, I don't want my odds of love to be one out of a million.
Hey.
I want
Hey,
my
me
odds to
either.
be a lot better than that, right? So
Yes.
I'm going to do the things that, I've seen, experienced, talk to people who've actually been in relationships that I know, and take that and try to apply that to my life to see if I can try to find love in the best way possible, versus looking at somebody where I don't even know. You looking at a cake and don't know none of the ingredients. You just say it look pretty on the outside and I want that cake too, right?
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
know what's in it, flour, I don't know,
Don't
baking
know.
soda. You don't know what
Yeah.
exactly. You don't
It
know,
could be a
right?
gluten-free cake.
And don't taste good at all. You don't know how it
No.
was built, how it was created, or anything like that. So
Mhm.
I just think it's important to, you know, not fantasize these things. You could take things away, right? And be like, oh, I like that. What they
It's
call it in
pretty.
the space,
Yeah.
inspo, right? I
Yes.
like that. That inspires me or that motivates me. I would love to do something like that, but not
Mhm.
taking that as the full example of this is what a relationship is. This is all to it. It should be this, all the time.
Yes, the only last thing I'll add to that before we get into our final thoughts is I think we severely underestimate how much wealth plays into people's quality of life. And I think that's just sometimes also a thing that has to be considered. Like, yes, again, Dre and I agree. Inspiration, admiration, in things, it's amazing. But imagine, like, Dre, think about it, like some of the things that make your life better are just some things you like literally pay for. Like it's you can afford the luxury of things to make your life go better, go easier, whether that's a cleaner sometimes, or someone to come in and cook sometimes, or whatever it might be. It could be softwares or subscriptions that you sign up for, and these things just automate your life or just help you do things better. So take that on a relatively normal level or average person, and then magnify that to the highest levels of wealth, where not only can they have things and resources, they literally can have people that are just like constantly taking care of things. There's no challenge around date night necessarily, because, well, the nanny lives here, you know what I mean, or the nanny lives in the guest house, and there's no complication around finding a sitter. When it comes down to, oh, homework, well, every night parents may not be helping with homework if they have extreme wealth and there's a nanny who's doing stuff like that. Or like just having an assistant that can manage things for you professionally all day long, and the bulk of the work you did today was like, yes, that's cool, no, I don't like that, I approve that, I don't approve that. That was the bulk of your gig today, so
You
you
could
weren't even
retire a
stressed out.
family member and have the family member come and live in the house and work. You know what I mean? It's like you said, so
Yeah.
many things.
It's so many things, and so those people sometimes really do get to focus and lock in on certain parts of their life, especially maybe even their love life, where they don't necessarily have as many stressors as the average person. I'm not in any way saying being rich solves all of your problems, but what it does is allow for you to have a lot of resources, which usually help manage stress, the typical stress of a two-parent household where you don't have help. And the last thing you're thinking about at the end of the night is like, baby, how are you feeling? It's like, I don't know my ass from a hole in the wall right now. I've worked, I'm tired, I'm stressed out. The train got canceled. Nothing went right today. And now I gotta feed these children and do homework. And you want to talk to me about my feelings? It's like, no. So I think it's just don't compare yourself, especially to people who just aren't living your lifestyle, like not even close to living your lifestyle. Their gym, your gym not in your house. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just so your trainer is not like just coming over to take care of you every day or like rub you down after that hard workout. No, that's none of those things are happening. So just try not to idolize it, because you see the glory, but you just don't know the whole story. You have no way of really seeing it.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Rhonda. And I always tell people it's not better, it's different.
It's different.
That's all. It's
It's
not better,
different.
it's different.
Mhm,
It's a different lifestyle.
mhm.
Because there might be things that you are rich in that they aren't,
That's it.
right? I remember dating a girl one time, and she told me how she had an indoor pool in her house growing up and she had all these things. And I remember asking her, I was like, who do you trust 100% the most? Like, if something happened to you or you needed something, like, who would you trust 100%? And
Mhm,
she was like, just really thinking, like, huh. She didn't say her mom. She didn't say her dad. She was like
mhm,
thinking, she was like, maybe my aunt. And I'm like, dang, you grew up in this huge house, indoor pool, all these things. But I was more wealthy. I was wealthier than you in so many different areas, right?
mhm. Yes,
Because there's a cost to everything.
that's it.
And I love that also, again, how transparent Michelle and Barack are about their relationship. Because Obama is like, if you're really going after something and really trying to do it and really trying to make it happen and you're truly dedicated, there's going to be imbalance in your relationship.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be, it's going to happen. Like he talked about, like,
Mhm,
like I said, there's times I'm in and out at home on the weekends, but I'm on the road all day, and we got new kids. Like, obviously, he achieved the highest level of any political office that you could ever have, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but that might be 10 years of that, right? 15 years of that putting up, and
Mhm.
now you're fully digging yourself out of that hole. But you want the glory, right? You want the first lady position
Yeah.
title, but there
Mhm.
are so many things that come with that. So it's not
Like,
a
but
better
do
life.
you really want that? Do
Yeah.
you?
It's not a better life. It's just different. Like,
Listen,
so you have to understand that.
yeah, my friend Cherie says, I'm gonna have to clean this up. She says, girl, you don't know if you want that. You don't know whose blank she had to blank to get that. So stop saying you want something. You don't know if you want that or not. So I agree. You never know what people had to go through or deal with or what they deal with to get. Let and not to be negative Nancy's or anything, but let Cassie's story be a shining example. So many people thought like, oh, that's so sexy, cool. They like this ooh sexy power couple whole time. You would not have wanted that. You wanted the Met Gala red carpets and you wanted what appeared to be the lifestyle, but were you really willing to do all the things that she allegedly had to do to have that lifestyle? Probably not. Most people probably wouldn't have chosen that for themselves. So just be mindful, admire from afar, and really just be like your own goals. Try to outdo yourself from yesterday. Try to be like, okay, last year we had a wonderful year. How can we make it even better? Or, last week was a really tough week. And how can we improve upon our own relationship? How can I look at my husband or my boyfriend or my partner and say, like, how can I make him happier? What can I do to make his life better? And vice versa. I think trying to create your own aspiration within your own relationship is much more of a focus or should be much more of a focus than trying to model off of people that you genuinely just don't know. Um,
Yeah, I always had this saying, and I coined it myself because I thought about it in my econ class when I was in
mhm,
college.
mhm,
So if anybody quotes it, you quoted it for me, and
yeah,
it's that the man that wrote the book didn't have the book, right? And yeah, think about that, right? The
think
man that
about it.
wrote the book didn't have the book, right?
Yeah,
So they've taken things from their own experiences and other experiences and created their own path and own journey.
yeah,
And I think that that's important when it comes to relationships is that you can look at other people's situation, but you're writing your own story, right?
that's it.
These are you create your path, you make your decisions based off of your experience and the things that you've come to understand and the things that you've seen. Write your own book, especially when it comes to your story. Don't live somebody else's, right?
That's it.
Because 9 times out of 10 you won't be happy because it's not your story,
That's
right?
not. It's not your
And
story, and
that
it's not your person.
and it's not your person, and that comes in
Mhm.
every part of life. I've talked about this before. Motivation is lighting the flame, discipline is sustaining the flame, and
Yeah.
you have to create a discipline mechanism that works for you.
Mhm.
So just because somebody else wakes up at 5 a.m. to work out don't mean that's your story and that's the way you got to go to work out.
Yeah.
You may be an evening person. Just because somebody's strength trained, you might be a class person. Just because somebody, does Pilates, you might be a swim. Like, you can take the experiences around you, but you are the narrator and author of your own story. So
Bingo.
make sure that what you're doing and the decisions that you are making work for you,
Mhm.
and make sure that you're crafting your own story as you go along versus taking a written story and trying to have your reality
Just
match what's
mimicking it.
already written.
That's it. That's it. So let's jump into final thoughts for our real lover. She wants to know, is it crazy for her to even be considering this? And I'm just curious, like, do you think that this is just more of like a we got unfinished business and let's figure it out? Or is it worth the shot? Is it worth what's the worst thing that could really happen? What do you think? Or how should she approach really trying to figure out should she do this or not?
It's so funny that that's a great question. And it's so funny that we always talk about like these emotional drug like feelings like lust
Hmm.
and even like love and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
nostalgia is, oh my gosh, it's a
Oh
hell of
my
a drug
gosh.
too, right?
Yes.
Even typically, I'll go take the music route. When you're comparing music, right? It's so
Mhm.
hard to compare people of different eras, especially if you're comparing somebody now versus somebody 10, 15, 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Not because that person 10 or 20 years ago music was actually better. It's just when you add the nostalgia on it, right? This is what I listened to going to school. This is what my
Mhm.
mom played in the house. Like it's hard to beat the nostalgia
Yes.
of a moment versus what the present is presenting, right? So
Mhm.
I think part of this is like the nostalgia is hitting you, and it's a hell of a drug. And it's just fun catching up with old friends and old people you had a relationship with, and especially somebody that you had feelings for and y'all had great moments. If you're in a relationship, you had great moments, right? You might have some bad
Yep.
ones too, but you had some really good moments too. And
Yeah.
it's like that feeling is euphoric, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's taking you back. It's like a sense of comfort. Like, so I don't think it's wrong to be able to live in that for a moment, right?
Yeah.
But understand that if you're talking about pursuing an actual relationship, you have to go through the proper steps of what you would do is as if you're rediscovering or discovering somebody for the first time, right?
Yeah.
And not lose sight of what you ultimately want out of a relationship and all the things we talked about, not, creating a story and trying to match that, but, you know, getting to know the person for who they are and letting things play out how they may play out. So, with that being said, first, I wonder if with this note that was written, if he asked to reconnect,
Mhm.
right? Or meet up. Because I probably would wait for that. I think that would be an easy way of not getting ahead of yourself, right?
Mm.
To try to make this fantasy that you're creating in your first two paragraphs like a reality. Like, this could be this. What if this is this? Maybe it's this. It's like, if he's not even reaching out to you to say, hey, I would love to catch up. I would love to get coffee. I would love to take you to dinner. Don't then go and that, try to create that reality for yourself. He
Mhm.
may just be trying to communicate how he felt and all of that. And I think that if that's the case, it was a really nice note. It
Yeah.
may have gave you some closure to a past situation,
Mhm.
which is always nice, even if it's 10 years later, right? And
Touche.
just leave it at that, right?
Yeah.
But if there is a place to where he does pursue you and wants to just meet back up, then take that for what it is. It's an
Mhm.
old friend that I used to date that I'm meeting back up with. And I'm very interested to see how this goes, right?
Yeah.
And date him as if you were dating somebody that you've never met in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Because this is a new person and you don't know him because he's in a completely new space.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think proceed with caution, right? But definitely proceed. And I agree with Dre. You should be looking for, him to actually ask for you to come out, or, to move the process along beyond the letter. I would hope that if you got from it, that he said that he's been thinking about you, and then hopefully he did express like true interest in trying to, just kind of see where things are. I would say absolutely do it. I mean, you sound like you're single, you're available, and why not? It could be, this could totally be your person, but it also may not be. You won't know until you do it. And I think realistically, we have to be open to the risk that comes with dating. The next person you meet could be the love of your life. They could also be just the next person that you meet, right? Like, but you won't know until you actually do it. You can't become crippled by the fear of it not working out, because nothing for the most part in life is guaranteed except death. Nothing. Like, you could start a business and hope that it's amazing and great, and that may not happen. You could try to get pregnant and that may not happen. You could try to go up for this new job and you may not get it. Like, life is all about risks, okay? Like, you can't really live without being willing to take those risks. So I say take the risk. If it works out, great. It does wind up becoming a wonderful story, but it also still would be a wonderful story if this wasn't your college sweetheart, if this wasn't someone from your past. Finding the love of your life and finding a person to spend the rest of your life with in a healthy relationship is a beautiful story without it having the spin the block narrative connected to it. So either way, I say definitely, proceed with caution. I think rekindling with someone from your past that makes sense is a beautiful thing for sure. Like Dre said, catching up with old friends, it's all a good thing when it's a good thing. The only time it's not is when it's not. And again, it's no way for you to know if you just don't try. So I say be open to it, pay attention, definitely look out for that growth and the accountability. Be patient and mindful of the new discovery, especially with him having a child now. I don't know how old his kid is, but if you are really going to potentially do this, you have to understand that, like, you're automatically, I don't know if you have kids, but if you don't, you're coming into a situation where you have to not only take him, but you take his child with him. And so that is something that it sounds like she's considering. She said, I'm not taking that lightly. So I think your mind is in the right place of being a little trepidatious about doing it, but I say, hell, what do you have to lose, honey? What's the difference really? Meeting a new guy or trying out the old guy? What's really the difference? Just try it out. I did want to share this poll because I wanted to know what, like, my friends on IG would think. Like, would they do this? Would they spin the block, or would they rather mop the ocean floor? And 71% of the people that voted said that they would, for the right person. They would reconsider rekindling. Only 29% said they would rather mop the ocean floor. And if I had to guess, that just means that all of their exes are trash. Like, none of them are worth revisiting. So I say why not? I'm a sucker for love. Just don't be stupid. But I'm
Yeah.
definitely a sucker for love.
And I'll leave you with this, especially because you said, he was engaged and it's not, a situation anymore, has a kid. And I can't even take credit for this because I heard this in church on Sunday. Shout out
Mhm.
to Pastor Mike Kelsey.
Mhm.
Um, and this is just for people just in general. He it's important for him to be in the right place in his own singleness, right?
Yes.
Before he enters into a relationship with you.
Mhm.
And the thing that Pastor Mike said that really stayed with me is that said a good husband is a good man with a wife. A loving
Mhm.
husband is a loving man with a wife. A kind husband is a kind man with a wife. A husband who has dealt with his trauma properly is a man who has dealt with his trauma properly with
Yeah.
a wife.
Yes.
Like, a lot of people enter into relationships thinking that they can transform somebody into somebody they're not, or
Mm.
can activate something into in somebody that's not currently being activated, right?
Yeah.
um and it's important to understand it goes the opposite way too. A good wife is a good woman that has a husband, right? So I
Mhm.
say that all to say is that making that, if you want the best husband for you or the best wife for you, is ensuring that that person is the best person they could be outside of you.
Yes.
And sometimes that might be sacrificing the right now with them if it doesn't make sense,
Mhm.
right? Give him the space. If he's not ready, if you sense he's not ready to move on, or it seems like he's ready to move on, but you get signs that he's still not over what has happened, you need to put pause on that. Although you might feel like it feels good to continue this,
Yeah.
you need to let him get to the right space if you want him to be good for you.
Yep. Yep.
I'll leave it
Yep.
at
Yep.
that.
Yeah. That's it. That's a great. I love that. I love. Shout out to your Pastor Mike. That was great. That was really, really great. Well, thank you so much for writing, and we would love an update. So please keep us posted on if this spin in the block situation works out for you. If you have a real love scenario, please head over to our website and write into the show at relationshiprestore.com. While you're over there, please be sure to join the community. We love keeping in touch with you through that. And listen, I got a little bit of a bone to pick with y'all. We need some reviews, okay? We need you to talk to us. We love it when you talk to us. So to be in the Real Love Gang, as Dre said, please be sure to like, comment, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you can. We love when you talk to us in the YouTube comments as well. So please, I want to see some love. We need to feel the love. We need to feel the love. So follow us on social media. I'm at Ronnie Cakes.
As Dre Smith.
And at Relationship Restored. And we will see you next week.
See y'all.